Okay, so let's talk about making a coil bowl, which is going to be your next project. You need a bowl. It can be taller than this. I just found this bowl. It doesn't have to be super clean, obviously. It can also be a bowl that you are going to use later on for eating. It's going to be okay. You just wash it out. You are going to need newspaper. We have found that the best way to cover this is to put newspaper down because it doesn't slide. So if you use like a plastic bag or saran wrap, it tends to slide a little too much. You do need something between your clay and the bowl, or else the clay is going to get stuck, and that is not what we want. So I'm going to take this and put it down. It's not going to be super fancy. I do want it to be as flat as possible, so I am folding it over a little bit. All right, so it's folding on top of itself here. So I want it to look nice on the inside and not be a hot mess, which is another reason why we don't want it to slide everywhere. So just folding it on top of each other. And you may need help with this. This is sort of a two-person job as well. Oh, and it ripped. Not a big deal. All right, so the next thing I need to do is I need to tape this down on the outside. So I'm going to rip off a couple pieces here. Start with this side. I'm going to fold it in on itself because the outside doesn't matter. You just want the inside to look nice. So I can fold all of that in and then just take a piece and make sure it's tight. And again, sort of rotate it. And I keep ripping it, and it's okay. Sort of fold it in. But you don't want it to come up. So I just, when I turned it over, I felt like it was, like it had come off the bottom, I guess. So taping it. Definitely would be easier if you had someone helping you. Because you could have someone, like, that's a problem, right? Have someone sort of hold the inside while you are working on getting the outside taped. So I'm pulling the tape a little tight to make sure that it stays and it doesn't slide. So again, it's okay if the outside sort of just is crumpled over and on itself. And it's okay if the tape like that goes over. Like I'm gonna put a little bit of tape there because it ripped and it's weird. All right, there. And if you need to, like if there's some bigger folds, feel free to just take some tape and put them down. What's happening here? Sorry, my light keeps going out. Sorry, it's like a flash show for you probably. All right, so it's okay if you need to tape some inside. So this is the start of my piece. Now what I'm going to do is I have all of these lovely pieces that I just created. It's easy if you want to set everything up first. All right, so if you make a bunch of coils and then go ahead and do this, it'll be a little bit easier. You will need slip or water. So depending on how much clay you have left, maybe you can make some slip out of it. You might need a fork, or you can use your finger or pencil or whatever to create some score marks, but you will need to do that to your pieces. So I'm gonna start in the middle here, and I'm actually gonna put a spiral down that we made. I am going to undo it a little bit though, because I do wanna make sure that it stays together and it doesn't come apart. Because remember, clay stays together when it's moist, but once it dries, it wants to fall apart because that moisture isn't there to hold it together. So I did undo it real quick and put some slip on there. So I'm going to start in the middle here, and then I'm going to take and I'm going to actually score it a little bit because I'm going to add a new piece of clay. And what I like to do is I like to take my clay and just score the whole thing like this, and then put some slip on there And it gets messy, not gonna lie. It does get messy. So you may wanna wear something that it's okay to get messy with. And I'm gonna start making sure this is in the middle because it's not secure to anything, right? So I gotta make sure this stays where I want it to. And keep going around. So I started with a spiral as my base, and as I keep going around, it makes its own spiral shape, right? So from here on out, I think I'm gonna add another long coil. I mean, think about how you want it to look as well. The higher the bowl, the more designs you're gonna have on the outside, which will be more visible from like the side view of your bowl. If you have a bowl like mine that's a little bit more shallow, you're gonna have more designs looking down on it, right? So what you wanna do then is you wanna start where you left off. So don't start in some random place. Start where you left off, push that in. So I know we're not scoring both things, but scoring one and putting slip-on will really help. But you want to have that transition where they sort of go together. All right, so from here on out, I can sort of come in and make some designs. So if I wanted to add my spiral around, I can come and add that in. Make sure if you make things ahead of time that you don't leave them out too long, or else they will, oh, I forgot to put slip on those. They should be okay. Oops, I ripped that. We're gonna get rid of that piece. Okay, sorry, I was distracted. Make sure that if you make things in advance that they don't get too dry, because sometimes we can leave them out and then they get too dry and then it's hard to manipulate or hard to attach. I would really encourage you to think about your design. Think about how you can add different designs in there, how you can make it look really creative and nice. Definitely easier to do a coil on the table than up in the air. And I'm not like, you can be super detail oriented and be like, okay, all of my coils are gonna have X amount of wraparounds, right? And that's totally cool. I'm not doing that right now. You know, think about different shapes you can even make with your coils. You can make hearts with them. You can make stars. I know I showed you, and I'll show you here in a second. So I'm not scoring as much because I know I'm getting some a really good sticky amount of slip in there. All right, I'm gonna do one more. So I got this sun action going on. If I wanted to make a heart, I would probably use a thinner one, you know? Here, move the bowl this way. But you can do a couple different coils here and just sort of coil in both ends, and then you can push them together and make like a heart. And then what you can do is take your arches that we talked about and fill in your heart with the arches. Sort of looks like a face too, but you can do that. And then what you want to do, and this is now where your artistic choice comes in. Do you want to leave those holes? Depends on what you're going to use the bowl for, right? If you're going to put liquid in this bowl, probably not the smartest idea. If you're going to fill it with, like, I don't know, chips, then that's okay. Or decorative things, then it's going to be okay. But if you are not, then I would consider, like, what are you going to fill those with? Are you going to use some short coils and go up like this, right? But I would definitely make sure that you slip them together, at least slip them together, because they won't stick otherwise. You know, if you're using a fork, maybe chop off the ends so that they're equal, and then make sure you score and slip the outside. You know, and then here, really making sure it's stuck together and putting out. And I'm doing it very quick, so like it's messy. Like those areas, if I wanted to keep these coil looks here, those areas are getting sort of put together, but I'm trying to do this a little bit quicker. You know, you could even do a wave in there or whatever. You could do arches around it. So another way to do this is to take an arch and stick it in there and build off that, right? So there's so many different ways that you can build up and build out. And actually this could look like a flower if I kept building out and building out and building out, depending on what I wanted to do. And if I wanted to then add like a twist on, you know, same thing that we've done with all the other stuff. You score and slip and put it in here, but you can add a twist in there. You can see it's a little bit thicker, so you have to be aware of that. That's why a lot of times people will use a twist on the top, or even a braid on the top of their bowl on the edge like this. But you can keep going. You can also fill these in with some circles if you wanted to. You know, if I wanted to do some half circles. Sorry, my hands are getting really dry here. You know, I could fill these spots in, really shove it in there with some circles. So there's so many different things that you can do. You can continue to do this. A lot of people will continue with coils, like they'll do a decorative thing and then they'll have a long coil and they'll continue to go around and in between to continue that coil look, around and around and around. So there's so many different things that you can do. Consider creating shapes. Like I saw this really cool, let me see if I can do it here. This really cool design. It was a little bit thinner, but they made like a bird design. I'm not gonna have the beak open, I like it closed. But they made like this bird design here, and then they filled it with spirals. And it just looked so cool and ornate and different. I mean, you could even add like a wave in for the, pinch this together here. For the wing, maybe that's a little too big, this coil. But think about, I mean, like I'm loving this right now, but think about all these cool things that you can make and then you can lay into your bowl, or maybe this is the base of your bowl. You know, maybe you start off with a twist in the middle, you know, like that looks super, super cool. And then you add your circle in there, right? So I'm loving that too. Like, look at that. That looks like right now, I did not plan this out at all. I just sort of went with it, right? But right now, as I'm playing around and doing some things, like, I'd rather this than what I have here, you know? So really look and plan and play before you get your idea. You know, maybe you can do some different things. You can even do letters, you know, like you could do a name or the word joy or happy or something like that. But the possibilities are endless for this. My one thing, two things actually, make sure if you do anything in advance, it stays moist, okay? Make sure everything stays moist so that it's bendable, it's usable. The other thing is you really have to make sure you attach things together. If you don't use water, at least water, and attach things together, it will completely fall apart once it's dry. So you have to make sure you're scoring and slipping. I know I didn't score as much as I should have, but I did score some areas and put slip on there. You really, really need that, because like this wave that I made earlier, yeah, I stuck it together, but it doesn't matter because it wasn't scored and slipped together. Okay, so I can push it together a little bit and get it to stick while it's in my hand, right? But once I start to hold it up, it's gonna fall apart, and that's what's gonna happen in the bowl. Once you start to hold it up, it's gonna come apart. So you really have to make some conscious choices on what you're doing and how you're creating it. When you're done, make sure this stays moist too as you're working from day to day. So you can take a spray bottle, just spray it and put it in a bag, or you can put wet paper towels over it and put it in a bag. Make sure this goes in a bag. But this is what we're gonna be doing for our coil bowl, and then just continue to, like this could even, you know, like it comes apart, sort of, I didn't score and slip those on, so they're coming apart. Like maybe I did a coil and I, you know, in the middle, and then added a bunch of these cool things around the sides. I mean, that looks cool too. You could maybe alternate a braid, take one of these, and sometimes you may need to just add a little bit of water on it. Like I can tell this is getting a little dry, so I would, if I had some time, I'd add water on it. You know, I could, look at me destroying everything. I guess that's the beauty of clay as well, you guys. So make sure you're scoring and slipping where it's gonna attach. The beauty of clay is that it can come apart really easily. So I'm gonna put some slip here. I'm also gonna put a little slip here where it's gonna attach. Sorry, I just bumped it with my head. Making sure it's really attaching on itself. But even just that, I mean, it looks squiggly, it looks like spaghetti or ramen or something, but super cool, different designs. Just really, really be creative and think outside the box with this. Use the different techniques. Maybe you just have a wave going around the whole thing, and then you've got a pretty decorative top. I don't know, but have fun. And don't forget to keep things moist, spray it down, use newspaper, because then this, well, like I'm moving things around, pushing them, and it's not really moving anywhere. If you use saran wrap or anything like that, it'll slide while you're trying to push things on. So have fun.